Bugatti. What do you envision? Did you picture it? Well done. This is also a Bugatti. I do not know how much it costs, but what I do know for sure, that one of these cars was sold at auction for $500,000 because only 830 of these cars were produced. You're touching a legend. Our legend is a part of Kamishmash Retro Gallery collection of the Le Calin restaurant. The history of creation Type 40 is a bit confusing, but we will unravel it, at least in a general way. In the 20s of the last century, the automobile world was developing at a rapid speed. There was a constant search for new technologies and optimization of production. It all started with the Bugatti Type 10, when Ettore Bugatti, in the basement of his house, was creating the basis, the idea of creating a very fast car for transportation. That happened in the 1988th. Essentially, he was creating a universal chassis, which 20 years later evolved into the Type 40 and Type 38. But the evolution didn't stop there. There were other models, but we are interested in this one, as it is in front of us. When there'll be another Bugatti, we'll talk about it. So during those years, everyone had a frame construction, and there was basically nothing else. One more thing. Type 38 is a more expensive vehicle. Type 40 is a civilian version of the Type 38 for fast and comfortable drive. This was in 1926, and they were produced at the same time. Sure, in terms of the base construction, there were slight differences. The Type 40 was a bit longer, 2,560 millimeters in the base. The length of the body itself is not important, as in any serious carriage barn, which are now called bodywork studios. They could make anything you wanted, but the basic body styles were also present. Torpedo, sedan, roadster, coupe, convertible, limousine, pickup. But at the heart of everything, always, there was the chassis. At that time, the chassis was the meat and potatoes of car manufacturers, and everything else was either gravy or garnish, but at the core of the chassis was always the frame. Yes, it's elegant. Yes, it's well thought out, but essentially, it's just two artistically curved channels with lintels, these two channels with holes in them, and that's it. And now, Bugatti begins, where the devil is truly in the details. Here is a leaf spring suspension both at the front and rear, but the way it's made, let me clarify. The leaf spring assembly itself forms a sophisticated structural element. Firstly, the leaf spring extends longitudinally across the axle without U-bolts. At top, there's a mounting plate equipped with a bump stop. One end secures the mounting bracket, while the other end is secured within the shackle. The outermost ends are unattached, while the inner ends are securely clamped at the midpoint, including the top leaf. Consequently, during suspension movement, both the upper and lower sections of the assembly slide accordingly. I'll show you in a moment. If you think that's where those details of the Bugatti end, then no. Let's move on to the rear suspension. Here, it's not the same as other main car manufacturers. The semi-elliptical spring is clamped with its thick end on the edge of the frame. The thin end rests on the axle. Friction shock absorbers are also located here. They are also present at the front. Andrea Hartford's dampers were invented in the year 1900. Materials used were leather and brass, later asbestos and brass, and sometimes even wood. They were popular until the 30s. Their main purpose is to dampen oscillations or vibrations in a vehicle's suspension system. Bugatti's racing heritage is evident in its wheel mounting, a single nut. These hubs and spoked wheels were made by the English firm Rudge Whitworth, renowned for producing bicycles and motorcycles. Wheels on the right side of the car have left-hand threads on the nut and vice versa. This means that during motion, the nuts are continuously tightened. A bit more technical attention. Drive shaft. No bearings and no universal joints. There are couplings made sometimes of leather, sometimes of reinforced rubber, as here. They absorb shocks from the box. Well, sort of dampens it. But they say it's reliable. I've talked about the diversity of bodies and carriage barns. The technology of their production essentially is straightforward but meticulous, and restoring them is a challenge. The thing is that the body is built upon a wooden framework, most commonly from beech, maple, ash, oak, basically from whatever that grows in the region. The crucial aspect is that the wood must be sturdy, and atop this beauty, metal was added for reinforcement. Moving to the rear, you see a cover. That's not a luggage compartment, that's... I'll show you all about it. We open the secret door. We stick our hand through it. A touch of muscular effort. Ta-da! And no, there is no trunk. It's actually called the mother-in-law's seat. You have to really dislike her. And now you also need to get out of here sideways. Sideways, $500,000. Bugatti embodies beauty and simplicity. It's expensive but minimalistic. We open the hood and there it is. A shiny rectangle. Nothing's there. You can't tell what goes where. So let's move to the other side. It's more interesting. All right. 4 cylinders and 3 valves per cylinder. 2 intake valves and 1 exhaust valve are actuated by a single overhead camshaft. This engine was also utilized in the Type 37, I mean the same design. It boasts a displacement of 1,493 cubic centimeters and produces 45 horsepower at 4,300 RPM. As for the torque, I couldn't find the information. The camshaft is driven by a vertical shaft with bevel gears connected to crankshaft, though this mechanism is not readily visible. It's different from the others of its time. Are you looking for the spark plugs? They're here, beneath the intake manifold on the cold side of the engine. There were 2 types of carburetors installed, Solex and, as in this case, Zenith. There's a gasoline pump, and there's more. You won't see it, of course, but take my word for it. Inside the engine crankcase, in the crankcase sump, there are passages designed to cool the oil along the way. And of course, there's a nifty little pump right here. Well, now, please step into the cabin where you'll find magnificent austerity as well. Wooden panels on doors, wooden dashboard, and the lower section of the window frames. Leather upholstery on the doors and seats. Some salons were more opulent and extravagant, while others were quite the opposite. Bare metal and nothing more. Theoretically, you could fold the roof down. Tight. Unbelievably tight. The windows open up on the sides and the windshield itself. On the dashboard. The speedometer in kilometers. And a tachometer multiplied by 100. And there's a starter. By the way, there are 4 gears. First, you move up and reverse gear. Up, sideways, and forward. The ignition key, like in a Jawa. Notice when you push it in, everything you've turned on before starts working. Now the starter from the button. The starter Bendix was making a bit of noise, which was unusual for us. Unlike what we're accustomed to, it's not located on the engine side, but rather on the gearbox side. It moves, not extends. Well, anyway, it's horrible. The exhaust system. Here it's not entirely straight through, yet it doesn't significantly muffle the car's deep voice. At modest figures, the traction is very pleasing. The main focus is on traction, not senseless howling. The car accelerates, accelerates, and accelerates. I'm not sure how long it takes for this car to accelerate to 100 kilometers per hour. I can't even feel it. But I do know for sure it can go up to 125. Bugatti was capable of many things. These closely related models from 30th through 49th are the most successful racing cars ever built. Not only have they won more races than any other car, they may have won more races than all others combined. 4 gears, very crisp, metallic shoves, not just shifts. Oh, there are brakes, as they were described at the time. State of the art for that era. Mechanical. There's a cable drive up front via rollers and long rods in the rear. Well, of course, they're drum brakes. But, there's no room here at all. Gosh, it's quite an intimidating experience when you try to accelerate, but it's not a carriage. This is a real, remarkably confident vehicle, and above all, honest. Just you, the engine, and the road. And the eyes of the Kamishmash restorers seemingly burning holes into the back of my head. The Type 40 was produced for a brief period, from the 1926 to 1930. The great Ettore Bugatti continuously refined his creations, aiming for technological excellence amidst of pre-war Europe and America. He aspired to match the technological prowess of the Ford, while preserving Bugatti's distinctive identity. Bugatti is always Bugatti. Like fine wine, it only improves with age, making it a choice for connoisseurs. Today we savored our share, and so, the hunt.
continues.